Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tiravanachari Yamuna Tiravanachari Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parvajikacharya Ashtotar Tata Shri Srimad, His Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parvajikacharya Ashtotar Tata Shri Srimad, His Divine Grace, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnavini Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Srimad Bhagavad Gita Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glory to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Well, I know we're in chapter 5. 13? Okay. That's on page 240. No kind of marker? Okay, at least some piece of paper, at least, or something. Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. On this first day of July, 2025 in San Diego, we're reading from Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And we're in chapter 5 entitled Karma Yoga, Action in Krishna Consciousness, text number 13. Sarva karmani manasa sanyasyaste sukhang vashi Navadvare pare dehi Naiva kurvan nakarayan Sarva karmani manasa Sanyasyaste sukham vashi. Sukham vashi. Navadvare pure dehi. Naivakovan karyan. Sarvakarmani manasa. Sanyasyaste sukham vashi. Navadvare pure dehi. Naivakovan karyan. Eddie? No? Okay, how about Ferdy? Sarvakarmani manasa. Sanyasyaste sukham vashi. Navadvare pure dehi. Naivakovan karyan. Sarvakarmani manasa. Sanyasyaste sukham vashi. Navadvare pure dehi. Naivakovan karyan. Sarvakarmani manasa. Sanyasyaste sukham vashi. Navadvare pure dehi. Naivakovan karyan. Anyone online? Guess not. Sarva, all karmani activities, manasa, by the mind, sanyasya, giving up, aste, remains, sukham, in happiness, vashi, one who is controlled, navadvare, in the place where there are 9 gates, pure, in the city, dehi, the embodied soul, na, never, eva, certainly, kurvan, doing anything, na, not karyan, causing to be done. Translation. When the embodied living being controls his nature and mentally renounces all actions, he resides happily in the city of 9 gates, the material body, neither working nor causing work to be done. Purport. The embodied soul lives in the city of 9 gates. The activities of the body, or the figurative city of the body, are conducted automatically by its particular modes of nature. The soul, although subjecting himself to the conditions of the body, can be beyond those conditions if he so desires. Owing only to forgetfulness of his superior nature, he identifies with the material body and therefore suffers. By Krishna consciousness, he can revive his real position and thus come out of his embodiment. Therefore, when one takes to Krishna consciousness, one at once becomes completely aloof from bodily activities. In such a controlled life, in which the deliberations are changed, he lives happily within the city of 9 gates. The 9 gates are mentioned as follows: Navadvare pure dehi, hangso le layate bahihi, vashi sarvasya lokasya stavarasya charasya cha. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is living within the body of the living entity, is the controller of all living entities all over the universe. The body consists of 9 gates: 2 eyes, 2 nostrils, 2 ears, 1 mouth, the anus, and the genitals. The living entity in his conditioned stage identifies himself with the body. But when he identifies himself with the Lord within himself, he becomes just as free as the Lord, even while in the body. Shvedashvatara Upanishad 3:18. Therefore, a Krishna-conscious person is free from both the outer and inner activities of the material body. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnanandjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmidatam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkest of ignorance, but my spiritual master Srila Prabhupada opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisances unto him and all members of Sri Parampara, the disciplic succession. So, this chapter is entitled Karma Yoga, Action in Krishna Consciousness. And in this particular verse, Krishna is saying that when one is Krishna conscious, when he controls his nature and mentally renounces all actions, he resides happily in the city of 9 gates, the material body, neither working nor causing work to be done. So that's kind of mysterious. Let's see if we can analyze that, what's going on here. So the idea is that back again to the basics. We always have to start with that, is that we're not the body. We are spirit soul. We're not this temporary vehicle called the material body. Each one of us has one, but none of us are one. Maybe I just came up with that. Well, none of us is one, actually, to be. Anyway, the point is that the ordinary course of events, without Krishna consciousness, without any input from the transcendental sphere, is that we naturally identify with the body that we're in. We have a gender, we have a race, we have a place of origin, we have a language, we have a family. All of those things are dependent on what body we're in. But as we all know, we may not think of it a lot, but the body is obviously temporary. We're in this body now, and some of us may be 20, 30, 40. I'm up in my 70s now, Same body. It's actually not the same body. It's the same name. It has certain resemblance to when I was 7, 8, 10, 12, 20, 30, 40. But there are constant changes going on. And this is the first lesson of the Bhagavad Gita. Everything else is based on that. And so if I'm a soul, what does that mean? A soul is spirit, is pure consciousness. That's what we are. We're a unit of consciousness, irreducible. We're called anksha in Sanskrit. And you can understand similarly, like you go to the ocean out here, you get a little thimble full of water. So compared to the whole ocean, it's practically nothing. It's infinitesimal, right? But it has the same qualities as the ocean. If you taste it, it's going to be salty. If you really analyze it, it has all those chemicals to it, but in minute degree. Similarly, the sunshine. The sunshine is made up of infinite number of rays, right, of sunlight. They even mentioned photons. So there's heat and light coming from the sun, right? There's practically an unbelievable amount of heat and light in the sun, and we're a safe 93 million miles away, so we don't get burned, right? But we depend on that sunlight for heat and light, growing the plants and doing all those things. And hopefully more and more driving the cars so we don't completely pollute the atmosphere. So each one of those rays has a little bit of heat and light, right? Because that's what but it's infinitesimal compared to the whole sun, obviously. So similarly, we are pure units of consciousness, irreducible, and very, very small, infinitesimal. But we never die, and we never are born, and we never get old. This happens to the body, but not to the soul. And so the whole point of Krishna consciousness is to start from that premise and begin to regain our spiritual nature. And the spiritual nature means that we're by nature full of happiness. There's this wonderful phrase, Sat Chit Ananda. There's a verse about Krishna spoken by Lord Brahma in his Brahma Samhita. Very, very instructive. Ishwarat Parama Krishna Sat Chit Ananda Vigraha Anadiradi Govinda Sarvakarana Karanam. You've heard that one before? You've got it memorized. But you know what it means. So Ishvara means a controller. And we're all controllers. We have some control over our environment and so forth, But it's pretty minute compared to God. I mean, it's infinitesimal. So he controls everything. Ishvara Parama, the supreme controller. He's controlling the subordinate controllers. There's God and there's sorry, that's the men's side. We have plenty of room in this. Yeah, we have some very nice benches, which is the most comfortable. And can you get some books of these books? Take these books over. Thank you, Prabhu. We are on page 240, 241, when you get the book. Yeah, you can sit on the bench if you like. So this verse, spoken by Lord Brahma, who's the first created being in the universe, and he was enlightened personally by Krishna from within the heart. There was no one else. He was sitting on this lotus. He appeared on a lotus. Where did I come from? So he tried to investigate. What has he got to investigate? The stem of the lotus. That's all. So he went down the lotus, but he couldn't really find his origin. So he got back up on the lotus and sat. Are we all right? I'm sorry? It's a little low. Did he turn it up? Okay, because Chad is not around, so turn it up a little more, okay? Yeah, maybe that one's better. Let me try. Hare Krishna. I think it's the same. Yeah. So, so Lord Brahma, who's the first created being, he said, well, what am I going to do? I don't know who I am, where I came from. So he tried to investigate the lotus. He went down the lotus, but he didn't make much progress. He came back up on it, sat down on the lotus, and he heard 2 syllables. Tapa. I actually heard him 3 times. Tapa means austerity. You know, so he's very intelligent. So, okay, I got to perform austerity. Well, what austerity can I perform? Meditate. So he meditated for a long time, and Krishna enlightened him from within the heart. That's right in the beginning of the Bhagavatam. Janmadyasya deton vayadi tadataschaiteshu bhigya swarat tene brahma vradaya adikavaye muyanti yatsurya. Brahma there is not Brahma. Brahma, that's why the long and the short A's are so important. Brahma means knowledge about Brahman. That's the knowledge. Within his heart, adikavaye, he's the first intelligent being. Adikavaye. You know. So anyway, he's enlightened with that. And then when later he continued meditating and he realized the spiritual world and everything, and he wrote this Brahma Samhita, which we have translated. It's wonderful in Sanskrit. That's the first verse. And then it describes there, you know, he's revealing what he understands. The vision that he got. Is someone, can we see if they're can be a little quieter in here? And so he has this ode to Krishna. You know, Chindam, we sing every morning. Those who've been here at 7:15, we sing some verses from it, and we hear it. Chindamani pakadasadma sakalpa vriksha lakshavate susurabhira vipalayantam lakshmi sahasra shata sambrama sevyamanam govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami. So this is revelation that he had from meditating of the spiritual world. And so the last line, every last line is the same. Govinda Mari Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. I worship the original person, Govinda. Govinda means he who pleases the cows and the senses. It's evocative of Krishna's life in the spiritual world. You know, it's eternal coward boy enjoying it. But then it begins, Ananda Chinmaya Dasa Patibhavitavi. So this is, everything is full of bliss. Ananda Chinmaya, is conscious there. And he describes how Krishna is always being served by the gopis and things like that. He goes on like that. It's a very, very wonderful poem. So Lord Brahma is very powerful. He lives a long, long time. I'm not going to, you know, it's unbelievably long, trillions of years. But he finally expires. He's not eternal. And he's in charge of, you know, engineering the universe. He's got 4 heads in this universe because we have a small universe. In the bigger universe, he has more heads so he can figure out more things. And it's a headache. It's headaches. To populate this universe, you know, he sees to that. But he's got a very responsible job. So actually, there's Krishna and he's enlightened Brahma, and then the knowledge comes down from Brahma to his disciple, Narada Muni, and on down all the way to us. So he's the head of our sampradaya. The sampradaya means a spiritual succession of realized souls who then initiate others who become realized, and knowledge comes down like that. So we call the Brahma Madhva Gaudiya Sampradaya. Madhva was also a great saint and a learned saint within the sampradaya. And Gaudiya refers to Lord Chaitanya. He appeared in the land of Gaud and like that. So what is the unique quality of this sampradaya? Is that it aims to reinstate oneself, those who follow the process of bhakti yoga. And yoga simply means, there's so many cognates of the Sanskrit and English. The yoke, to connect. Yoga, you know, had come to mean some gymnastics, you know, asanas. That's how I was introduced to yoga. But the purpose of yoga is to link you as spirit to the Supreme Spirit. That's the purpose of yoga. And in bhakti yoga, bhakti means loving devotion, loving devotional service. That's the idea. It's because what is it that gives our life any joy at all, you know, on the material plane even? It's some loving exchange. It's some loving relationship. And even sometimes they're directed toward, I mean, let's face it. You know, sometimes they're directed toward animals. I take a walk I learn so much on my walk, you know. I take about a 1.5 mile walk up and back on Cass Avenue here. And it's a bit of an incline, so it's a nice exercise. I'm chanting japa, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. And whoever comes and I see that they're not completely absorbed in their phones, which is a distinct, fewer than half. They may look at and they say, I don't tell them Hare Krishna. I say good morning. And many of them, oh, okay, someone's saying good morning. That's, you know, you get a smile, you know. But we're distinctly limited in our material abilities. This body of 9 gates, you know. Well, we can relate, you know. We learn so many things. We have mind, we have intelligence, you know. And these are a subtle body. It's wonderful how he analyzes it. There's this gross body, which we call the body we see in the mirror. This is our body. But the mind and the intelligence, which is the thinking factor, judgment. Mind is like always looking for what can I enjoy and what can I escape of some danger, making judgments and directing us. Mind is, you know. But the intelligence is a special quality of the human being that we have that enables us to understand these things. You bring any dog or cat, you know, they can't relate to it. So what should we be using that intelligence for? To try to understand who we are, why we're suffering, what is the goal of our life, and is there, you know, is there an existence that has no downside? It's not up and down. It's not like, you know, sometimes you're completely miserable, sometimes you feel very happy. You know, but it's all temporary. This is called asat. We want to go from the asat to the sat. Asato ma sadgamaya. You learned it as a child, right? This is a little. Anyone who grew up in India, they learn these things. Asato ma sadgamaya. Now, Prabhupada, it can be thought of as 2 ways: as a prayer, "Oh Lord, please take me from the temporary to the eternal," and asato ma sadgamaya, tamasi ma jyotirgamaya. Please take me from darkness or illusion to light or pure knowledge. And then, what was the third? Mrityu ma amritam gamya. Yeah. Please take me from death to immortality. Or the ma can mean don't. It can be like, you know, this is how Prabhupada takes it. Don't stay in the temporary. Come to the eternal. Don't stay in the darkness of ignorance. Come to the light of knowledge. Don't stay in the world of birth and death. Come to the world of eternal, ever-existing life. And so, how can we do that? Is that real? And that, you know, the awakening of faith that it's real and that there's a process to get it and that I can actually follow it. That's the basis of practice in devotional service. Now, why do I believe in all these things? One is the main reason is because I'm aware of the exalted quality of our sampradaya, of those who came before me, beginning with Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada was a brilliant student, actually, and he became a brilliant businessman when he got married in India. But he was always raised by his father as a devotee. Prabhupada was maybe 5 years old, and he heard about the Rath Yatra in Puri. He didn't want to go there. He wanted to have his own Rath Yatra with a little Rath cart. Rath means a cart that you mount these little forms of the Lord on, and you have a procession outside. And it's coming up in L.A. if those are interested to really have a wonderful time. Every year since 1977, I was there for the first one. We had elephants. Yes, we had small elephants, but did you know that? Yeah, on Venice Beach. Have you ever been to LA? You know about that? Have you seen that? They may have some, maybe on YouTube. I don't know if they were taking movies because it's kind of back then. But I remember it was such a wonderful experience. The Rath Yatra has been going on in a city called Puri in India, in a place in the Orissa province, since thousands of years. Right? When the British ruled there, they saw the parade. At least 1 million people come, I swear. And these big forms of the Lord, we have miniatures here. If you're around when the curtains open, you'll see them on the right side. They're smaller, but the big ones are like this big, right? And they carry bigger than that, even bigger. Yeah. Bigger than this? Yeah. Off the ground? Bigger than us. 6 feet, more than 6 feet. Okay, She knows. She's seen it. But anyway, it's a magnificent parade, you know, and there's so many people pulling the cart that the English created a word, juggernaut. The juggernaut, the thing that can't be stopped, the power, you know. That's what that came out of that. So Prabhupada, when he came to America, he had the brilliant idea, well, why, you know, he's Lord of the Universe, why just keep it in India? So he started the first one in '67 in San Francisco. It was, they didn't have any carts made. It was a truck. They had the truck, and they had Jagannath looking at one side and Balaram on the other, and I think, yeah. And, you know, San Francisco is full of hills, right? So they're going down a hill, and the brakes are getting weak. He said, "Oh my God, can I really?" You know, there's all this thing. So luckily, nothing happened. So that was the first one. It was a great success, and it's happened every year since then, but only in San Francisco until '77. And then Ramaswamy, he was in charge there. He was the leader, and he didn't want to go through the whole thing because it's a big expense, you know, and it's a lot of trouble. But he had Mr. Rathayatra living there, Jayananda. He is a wonderful devotee. He joined Prabhupada right at the beginning when he came to San Francisco in the early '67. He was like an engineer, a graduate of college. Usually you're not, you know, it wasn't the usual, but he was very devoted, and he was 100% into building the carts when it came around, you know, and he was able to engage other people, and some of those people became devotees, leaders of the movement. It's whole thing. So Jayananda, unfortunately, he after the first New York Rath Yatra in 1976. It's always in early June. Now I'm regretting it. Maybe I should have gone to it. It was fabulous this year. But he was there, you know, building the carts. There's a whole story about it I won't get into now. But it takes a lot out of you. You know, he was day and night. He wasn't getting much sleep and all this stuff. So he unfortunately came down with leukemia at that point. And after that, he was very ill. In fact, he was staying down here in Tijuana for one of these Layatril cures, trying to do that, you know. And Gunagrai Swami would go and visit him. But after a while, he gave up on it. He said, no, I'm going to give, he had collected $5,000. He gave that all to the book fund, to Prabhupada, who was still at 77. And he donated, and he went to L.A. I happened to be living there at the time. And so I didn't really get to meet him, you know, he was so ill. But he was, even though Ramaswamy was reluctant, Jayananda was getting on the phone and ordering the wood and doing all these things that made it inevitable that the Rath Yatra had to go on, you know. So he was the father of that Rath Yatra. And it was a great success. And Prabhupada wasn't there. He was in India. He was very ill at the time. But he saw pictures of it. He said, oh, I've never seen carts like that, you know. So it's going to happen in August 3rd, about a month from now. And if you can get up there, we also have a bus, that chartered a bus. And as soon as I know how much, and, you know, if you get on that bus, there's room for 60 or so people. It's much easier. Just come here. Breakfast is served. And, you know, you can take it on the bus with you and go up and back. And you don't have to worry about parking or driving or anything like that. Okay, so I don't know how I got on that, but that's that's a purely spiritual activity. And it's full of chanting and dancing, wonderful conversation. I'm sure Vaisheshika Prabhu will be at the question and answer booth for some time. And he's wonderful. And probably some sannyasi who I don't even know is going to come will be there. I don't know if Bhadrinarayan Swami will come. If he does, it's going to be difficult. He has difficulty walking now, you know, from the diabetes. But anyway, that's part of Krishna consciousness. And back to our verse. So the embodied being, that's us, we control our nature because for many, many births, we've been identifying with whatever body we're in and trying to enjoy the senses, trying to get away from danger, completely in the bodily concept and relation. Whether we're in human form or subhuman form, we're still the same soul. But the wonderful thing about it is that there's no eternal condemnation or damnation. We may be very sinful, you know, and not going back to Godhead. And we may actually lose this human form of life. But we're always going to come back up. We come back to the human form of life. But the key is to take advantage of this. human form. Learn who we actually are as spiritual beings. Learn how to act spiritually so that we more and more realize our relationship with the Lord. And we become much more peaceful, you know, when we know. I came up with this little poem. Some of this will be the first time. Who can deny it? Every single body dies. It doesn't matter, human body, tree body, ant body. Eventually it goes. So I shortened that to every dies. Every body dies, nobody dies. Wake up and open your eyes. You're not that body, you're a pure spirit soul. Chant the holy name and attain life's goal. That's the Hare Krishna movement in a nutshell. So, but it's not so easy. We're so habituated to identifying with the body and obeying the desires for sense gratification, which as soon as you engage in sense gratification, suppose, I'll give you, you know, an example from my own life. At a certain stage of my childhood, I became virtually addicted to these chocolate kisses. They still have them, you know, solid little chocolate that melts in your mouth, you know. And not only that, but, you know, chocolate sodas, chocolate sundaes, everything chocolate, you know. All right, so yeah, I didn't know anything about anything, you know. I have a confession to make. I was raised as an orthodox communist, totally atheistic, yeah. And my father had been part of the New York scene, the labor movement and all these things, you know, during the war, you know. He was, thank God, he was too old for World War, no, he was too young for World War I and too old for World War II. So he didn't have to go abroad and you know. But anyway, so he would, you know, the main book, you know, the Bible is the Das Kapital, right, from Karl Marx. So he had a big copy of that thick thing, you know. And he was afraid the FBI would raid our home, you know, and there was a reason for that. So he would always keep it hidden, and in the evening he would take it down and read to me on the kitchen table from Das Kapital. I don't remember much of it. But one thing I do remember, because it applies to Krishna consciousness, from each according to his abilities, to each according to his needs. Now this is the ideal Varnashram system. You know, everyone has a different role to play. Just like some are pretty smart, you know, they can be teachers and they writers. Some are managers, you know, they're tough guys, you know, they can be the fighters because you need that. And managers. Some are good at making money, you know, and they do banking and so forth, and farming and everything that where you can, you know. And then there's a lot of, probably the majority, who are manual laborers, you know, they're also necessary. So that's Varnashram. That's the social side, but there's also a spiritual side. When as a child, he can be trained in spiritual knowledge, you know, and when you get older, you can take a role as a brahmachari, you know, celibate student, and eventually become a sannyasi, or you can get married, you know, and have Krishna conscious children. We had a wonderful family living here. I'm still in touch with them. What is it? Gaura and Ananga Priya, and their wonderful daughter Vrinda and beautiful son Mukunda. And they were really a good example, you know. You go to their home, they have an altar, deities and everything, and it's a kirtan. And she was a wonderful cook. And he was very intelligent. He would get classes here. He worked with computers. I forget what he was doing, you know. Now they're up in Seattle. And his daughter, just angelic singer, you know, and the son, he's a drummer, you know. And I swear, every time I saw him, he's an inch bigger. He would grow bigger. And he liked to play the wampers too. When I say the wampers, you know, even though he's kind of undersized for the wampers. But the whole family, you know, they were obviously Krishna conscious. And he wrote a little book recently that he showed me, you know, on lessons from the nature that you can get, you know, also. So that's very possible. In fact, the majority of Lord Chaitanya's followers, especially in Navadvip, were all householders. He himself was a householder. He was married, although he didn't have children. But anyway, so the point is that there's a way of doing it Krishna conscious, no matter who you are and what your situation is. How you can dovetail your life in Krishna service and meet your needs, but at the same time develop your consciousness of Krishna. Who is God? What are his qualities? You know, pastimes, philosophy. When we read the Bhagavad Gita, what is Bhagavad Gita? Bhagavan is a name that means the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Bhaga is a word that means opulence or some special quality, power. And Van means that which possesses. So Parashara Muni, the father of Vyasadeva, wrote a verse that gives us a definition of Bhagavan. Say, Aishwaryasya samagrasya viryasya yashashakshya jnana vairagyayoschaiva shannam bhaga itingana. This is the definition of Bhagavan. So there's these 6, Prabhupada called them opulences. He changed the language a little bit. Maybe at one point the word opulence will also get to mean what I'm describing here. So the first one is Aishwarasya, which you commonly think wealth. You know, what does the Isha Upanishad say? Isha vasamidam sarvam, that the Isha actually owns everything. When we say, no, this is mine, this is mine, this is mine, this is the origin of separation from God. So understanding that everything belongs to God means everything should be used in His service. That's the idea is possible, including ourselves. You see, and one would think, well, what about me? You know, what am I going to have? So the idea, you have what's necessary to live. But when you get beyond that, and you're developing greed more than you need, you know, the example is these multi-billionaires. Who needs all that? You know, and so much trouble. Meanwhile, you have people barely living paycheck to paycheck. You know, it's just crazy. In the Vedic society, everyone is getting what he needs, isn't it? And you know, they're working according to their psychophysical condition. They're trained as that. And they're happy like that, and there's a path, especially for the higher, those with more intelligence, where you can progress toward perfection, which is the result is no more birth, old age, disease, and death. When you think about it, that's our real problem. We don't usually think about it. We have so many other problems. They got to pay the rent, they got to get a doctor, you know, whatever. Which certainly problems. But the big problem is that whatever you have in this world is going to be taken away from you, beginning with your body. You know, and when your body goes, those things related to the body, like your bank account, that's also staying here. You can't take it with you. So what do you take with you? You take with you, in the ordinary case of you know, without Krishna consciousness, all your desires, your karma. You know, everything is, nothing is you can't get away with anything. Krishna is there in our heart as the super soul. And he's giving us good instruction, but for the most point, we don't want to hear it. You know, we're kind of ignoring it. But he's trying to guide us this way and that way. We're fortunate, you know, you come here to hear the Bhagavad Gita. How rare that is. This is a huge crowd for me here. You know, we don't have to, although we have a nice audience on YouTube. But the point is that it's a rare soul who is even interested in these ultimate questions. Who am I really? You know, how can I end this cycle of birth, old age, disease, and death? And then, you know, to lose. And if you don't have any understanding of how to act in order to be elevated, chances are high in this age, especially in this society, that you'll lose the human form of life. You can become a dog and a cat or an insect. Yes. The insects are alive, right? That means they have consciousness, very rudimentary. You know, those mosquitoes, they know how to, yeah, you know, they have a certain amount of knowledge. So, but of course the life is very short, so what happens to the soul in the mosquito body? He goes up, he may become a moth, may become, you know, ultimately a bird, you know, and then up. The trees, they're also alive. Very rudimentary consciousness. So this should be very sobering to us, because our life in this body, this wonderful human body, is certainly limited by time. No one can deny it. So the question is, once you accept the understanding that we're eternal, and there's a wonderful book that was put together in the 70s, Mukunda Maharaj was involved in it's called Coming Back. And it has a lot of empirical proof for transmigration. They're even on the internet. I forget what it is. I found it one time. This was not an Indian boy or girl, because those are common there. But this was some American kid in in Michigan or something. His parents were, I don't know, Lutherans or something, you know. And but he insisted that he was a World War II pilot, and he died in World War II. He's like 4 years old, just beginning, you know, to say something intelligent. And what are they going to think, you know? So eventually, I don't know how, but they try to find out if there was such a pilot, and sure enough, it was a real pilot, and the plane he was describing was the one that went down. I mean, it was all confirmed. And there's other cases in India that have also been. So what does that mean? The only way that can mean is that, yes, the same soul is in this body who is in that body. And this is the first teaching of the Bhagavad Gita. And it's wonderful, Krishna's example, because just by thinking about this verse, transmigration makes more sense. Dehinosmin yata dehe kaumaram yovanang jara tata dehantara prabdi dhiras tatra namuyati. Just as in this body, all of us can think now, I mean, can everyone remember something about when they were 8 years old? 7, 6, 10, right? There's certain little things that come out, right? So that means we're obviously alive. But we all know our consciousness was more rudimentary, our knowledge wasn't developed much, our body was different. So the body's different, the mind is different, and everything's... What's the same? You. Your identity. The same name, but your mother, you still have the same name. And it continues like that. Adolescence and middle age, old age, same person is there. So what's changed? Your mind has changed, your body has changed, but you haven't changed. You're the same soul. But 99.99% of people, they're identifying with the body, so they're thinking, oh, I'm getting old, what's going to happen? You know? And who's going to take care of me? You know, maybe, hopefully my kids, you know, but they hardly call once a week now, you know, so it's going to be. That's what happens. You know, everybody gets old and eventually, boom. You know, I worked in a hospital for a year and I saw a lot of people die because I was an inhalation therapist, the guy who takes the oxygen around, you know. And it's mostly the nurses, they keep them all sedated because people are freaking out. And they're seeing the Yamadutas come. You know, a lot of people. They even have a name for it, terminal restlessness, right? Where people, when they get old, they're almost going to die, and they say, oh, was that dog coming to me? You know, oh yeah, they're hallucinating now. They may not be hallucinating. So this is the state for all of us. So the question is, and here's the science, what's the dominating thought in our mind when we finally leave this body, when it breaks down? It's just a complicated machine. It's a wonderful machine. But eventually, it breaks down just by the force of time. But if we train in Krishna consciousness and we become Krishna conscious, then that can be the dominating thought in our mind. The form, the qualities, Krishna, and he will help us to remember. And it's all, yes, he will help us to remember. He's helped by speaking this Bhagavad Gita. He didn't have to come here. He says at the beginning of the 4th chapter why he comes. Yada yada dharmasa glana bhavati bharata. This one I know you know. Kids learn this before they learn to say much anything else. So whenever there's discrepancy in dharma, in religion, then I appear. And then the next verse he says the 3 things to protect the devotees who are often persecuted. You know, paratanaya sadhunam, the sadhus, vinashaya cha dushkritam. Hare Krishna, thanks for coming. And to annihilate the demons who are tormenting the devotees, and to reestablish Dharma. I come age after age. Now, but he doesn't always come as Krishna, as the original personality of Godhead. But once every day of Brahma, which is how long? 8.64 billion years. Now, he only came 5,000 years ago. That's like a snap of the finger compared to 8.64 billion. So how fortunate we are. Krishna came in the original form. He enacted his wonderful pastimes. They're recorded beautifully in the Srimad Bhagavatam and other books. He spoke the Bhagavad Gita for us, you see, in order to reestablish Dharma, because without proper Dharma, we're no better than animals. There's a verse like that. Ahara nidra bhayamaitanangsha samanya metat pashabi samana. Dharmo hitesha madhiko vishesho dharma nehina pashabi samana. We share basic functions with the animals: eating, sleeping, mating, fearing, defense, you see. So what makes us human? Dharma. Dharma hitesha madhiko vishesha. The wonderful difference is dharma. Without proper dharma, we're no better than animals, polished animals. And we could very well become animals, real animals in our next life. So that's a tragic waste of human life. That's the whole idea. The human life is a special life where we can apply our intelligence and control the lower self by the higher self, so that we can deepen our actual connection to Krishna, our understanding of that connection, live in that connection, and ultimately, if we're successful, not come back. The last chapter of the Coming Back book is Don't Come Back, and it's all about bhakti, how you can avoid coming back. So the book is available outside. So I'm kind of going on, we're not making much progress. So let's do another verse. Nakartitvam nakaramani lokasya srijati prabhu nakarma palasangyogam swabhavas tu pravartate. The embodied spirit, master of the city of his body, does not create activities, nor does he induce people to act, nor does he create the fruits of action. All this is enacted by the modes of material nature, and we're going to get into those in a minute. Purport: the living entity, as will be explained in the 7th chapter, is one of the energies or natures of the Supreme Lord, but is distinct from matter, which is another nature called inferior of the Lord. Somehow the superior nature, the living entity, has been in contact with the material nature since time immemorial. The temporary body or material dwelling place which he obtains is the cause of varieties of activities and their resultant reactions. Living in such a conditional atmosphere, one suffers the results of his activities of the body by identifying himself in ignorance with the body. It is ignorance acquired from time immemorial that is the cause of bodily suffering and distress. As soon as the living entity becomes aloof from the activities of the body, he becomes free from the reactions as well. As long as he is in the city of the body, he appears to be the master of it, but actually he is neither its proprietor nor controller of its actions and reactions. He is simply in the midst of the material ocean, struggling for existence. The waves of the ocean are tossing him, and he has no control over them. His best solution is to get out of the water by transcendental Krishna consciousness. That alone will save him from all turmoil. So this is another very graphic description here. So we're master of the city of our body to some degree. The body is doing so many things on its own, and sometimes it does things we don't want it to do. But more or less, we're in good health, master of the city of the body. We do not create activities, nor does we induce people to act, nor does he create the fruits of action. So this is the soul, the embodied spirit. Not really doing anything, but we seem to be doing something. It's our body under the modes of nature. Now these modes are very important to understand. They will be explained in detail in the 14th chapter and the 17th chapter also. And we're familiar with them, but not by name and not understanding their significance. The mode of passion, for instance, it kind of says it all. You know, you really want, to enjoy, and that's the predominant mode that your intelligence is in, and so you figure out how to make a lot of money, hopefully legally, possibly not, and then then you can enjoy, you see. Mode of ignorance, we're all familiar with that mode. I know I got to clean this place up, but can I do it tomorrow? This is the nature of the mode of ignorance. It's built on kind of laziness, and then things become dirty, and it's just a big job to clean it. So that that's the mode of ignorance is procrastination and laziness, and also use of drugs to just try to get away from it all, and forget the pains. It's the most dangerous mode, because you build, if you're in the mode of ignorance predominantly, then you're probably not going to get a human form of life. You go down to an animal species and you have to wait to come up. You're never condemned eternally, either to hell or to a lower species. You always come back to the human form. But the whole idea is to take advantage of it and not let these modes pull you down. So Krishna consciousness, a lot of it is trying to build the mode of goodness, to get trained in that, and like in life in the ashram, regularity and cleanliness and all these different things. And the mode of goodness means that you're more thoughtful, You're not as, controlled by the lower passions. You're philosophical. You like to walk in the forest, in the woods, and think about things and read, And so it's reflected in what kind of food you like, what kind of music you like, what kind of activities you like to do. Each one is, that's, 3 parts mode of passion, maybe 1 part mode of goodness, So these modes are controlling us in the conditioned state. But in the Krishna conscious state, pure Krishna consciousness, you're in the mode of Shuddha Sattva, which is pure goodness. Regular goodness can be tinged with passion and sometimes be overcome by passion and ignorance. But when you're fixed in the mode of pure goodness, it's called the Vasudeva state. Why? Because in that Vasudeva state, Vasudev, Krishna, the short and the long A's are all important. Vasudeva is his father, and his son is Vasudeva is Krishna. So he appears. When you become more and more purified and more Krishna conscious, you can attain that state of pure goodness, and you stay there. Nothing can really... And we saw that with Srila Prabhupada, despite all difficulties and so many things, he was never shaken. Equipoise, dhira, it's called. So the idea is that you become able to enjoy you link into the ocean of pleasure within your heart. Krishna's there, And when you're conscious of him and serve him, you see, there's always that spiritual pleasure. And the difference is that it doesn't have to come to an end. It's not dependent on the fact that, now I can, do this with my body, It's dependent on your mind, and it's dependent on your intelligence and your inner consciousness. So it means that old age is not, the end of the world. I can't do this anymore, I can't do that anymore. Oh my God, what can I do? So, no, you can always chant Hare Krishna. And for a pure devotee, it's just the chanting of the holy name is sufficient. Because Krishna's there in his name. So that's the key. Along with the philosophy, the chanting is so important, because then you realize, this makes sense now. Yes, now I'm in a whole different state of consciousness. And I can remember what I was like before, Like I've been doing this over 50 years. But I can say, it never gets boring. The chanting, Hare Krishna, Krishna. Let me give you a verse about the holy name, because so this is, this is a beautiful verse. Now, the Hare Krishna mantra, you're actually calling on Krishna and Radha. This Hare is vocative for Hara, which is the goddess of fortune. And the main goddess of the origin of all the goddesses of fortune is Radharani. So we're calling on Krishna and Radharani, please engage us in your service. Now, this verse by Bhagavad Gita, one of the close associates of Lord Chaitanya, he's instructing his tongue to chant the names of Radha and Krishna. So listen how it goes. I put it into a little poem. Radheti nama navasundara siddhu mugdham, Krishneti nama madhurapatagara dugdham, Savakshanam sudaviraga himena ramyam kritva tataiva pibame rasane chadarte. An excellent fresh nectar drink with endless subtle tastes, such is the name of Radha, by whom all 3 worlds are graced. Condensed milk that is wonderfully delicious, thick and sweet, such is the name of Krishna, in whom all attractions meet. Now mix these drinks, O thirsty tongue, and add the cooling, fragrant spice of love, a prize the wise will try to buy at any price. And then at every moment drink this beverage most fine, and make my heart supremely blissful, peaceful, and divine. And this is how Raghunath Das Goswami was relishing Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare, because he's chanting that. And it's open to us too. Free. It's free. You didn't pay the fare to come into the class? Good. There is no fare. It's free. It's all free. And how about the tacos? Did they charge the usual amount? They did, right? Yeah, nothing. So what could be better? And what are you getting? The most valuable thing that could possibly be. Liberation from birth and death, return to the spiritual world, resuming your eternal life of bliss and knowledge. What a bargain. So thank you for coming. We have time for one more poem. Don't get any ideas. So So this is a very nice prayer by Rupa Goswami. Manasijapani dushte, labdapatos mi dushte, timandagahana rupe, hanta sangsara kupe, ajita nikara daksha het namuddara daksham, upanayama mahaste, bhakti rajum namaste. Fallen in this deep and dark, and now we have to, somebody may know the word maya, which means illusion and the material world. Fallen in this deep and dark and dirty well of maya, threatened by the snake of lust, whose venom burns like fire. Helplessly I plead, O Lord, whose strength is never in doubt, place the rope of bhakti in my hands and pull me out. And there's a very nice lesson in this verse because, okay, suppose Krishna answers our prayer and he lowers that bhakti rope down. Then what do we have to do? Hang on tight. That's all we have to do. In other words, we need to follow the principles of bhakti yoga, beginning with chanting Hare Krishna. And if we do it seriously and sincerely, Krishna will pull us out. He wants it to come out. That's why he took the trouble to come and taught the Bhagavad Gita. So that'll be a very glorious thing if we take that up. But now let's get ready for the Kirtan and the Arati. You'll see beautiful forms of Radha, Giridhari, and Gauranitai, and Jagannath Baladev Subhadra, the heroes of the Rath Yatra.